We're gonna talk about what you should do at work. What you should do at work. I'm still a little under the weather. I've been sick all weekend, but doing a little better. I don't have a splitting migraine. Uh, and we're gonna talk a little news story about a guy who's suing Disney for 2.5% of the revenue of Moana, or $10 billion. Either or. I don't know, 2.5% of Moana over its lifetime? Is that going to be more than 10 billion? I don't know. Is it really 10 billion? And we're going to talk about, or we're not going to talk about, but I provided a link to a Substack article about this new memoir or book on Elon Musk and how he's just been a fraud from the beginning. He is the unelected South African immigrant, illegal immigrant president. And there's a great Substack on Elon Musk that if you still like him, you should just read this. That's why I provided it. But we're going to talk about what you should do at work. What everybody should be doing at work. It's great advice. It's advice I give all the time. It's something I practice. In a second. There's also another story I included, link down below, about one of the video game creators. One of the video game creators is calling out all the other technocrats, Amazon, Google, Meta, Elon, obviously, how they're all bending the knee for Trump. Not many are given to the wildfires, I don't think, but they're all donating to Trump. And this article was interesting because this guy who, I forget the video game company he heads, but he was like, you guys all pretended to be Democrats. Once you thought you could garner some favor because Trump takes bribe, he loves to take money for favor. They were all throwing wads of cash at him. So another interesting read. I link everything down below. If you're new, hit subscribe and then the notification bell, which I think the subscribe button turns into the notification bell right after. I'm Rob. I'm not usually sick, but I am usually here every weekday, or try to be here every weekday, doing some news commentary. I'm like the very poor man's Hassan. Very poor. So before we get into the did Disney steal Moana, and is this guy that's suing Disney for 10 billion, is he right? Which I believe him. And the story is weird. It's weird and it's sad. And I think this happens more often than not. But let's talk about what you should be doing at work. Now, if you're not discussing what you make at work, you should be. There's the old adage that's usually said by old heads. Don't talk pay. Don't talk your pay. Don't discuss how much you make. And that's propaganda. That's bogus. In fact, why do you think there's a federally protected law, a federal law that protects workers from being able to discuss what they make, to discuss their wages, that you are federally protected to do that? They cannot retaliate. They cannot fire you. In fact, it's a good thing for workers to discuss how much they make, because then you realize, and I'll get into more specific in a minute, but then you realize what the playing field looks like. Blue Joker. Oh, good God. Hit subscribe, notification bell. But you should be talking about how much you make, because if you don't know what people are making around you, then you don't know if you're underpaid or overpaid, or if they just hired somebody who's making as much as you and you've been there for 3 years. It's really important. And so you know that this is not BS, because you might hear from older people. Older people love to say this, and especially like the corporate people, the people who are the bootlickers for the managers and the mid-managers. Thank you for subscribing, Blue Joker. I hate your first comment, but thank you for subscribing. But the people that are like management and really into like, oh, if you work hard enough, management will notice you. It won't. Those are the people that might tell you don't discuss your pay. It's inappropriate, or don't tell people what we gave you for a raise, or don't do it. And to prove that it is federally protected for you as a worker to discuss how much you make, I put the link down below to the law, and it states it very clearly that you can feel better. Oh, thank you. Hey, what's up, Wolverine RC? I haven't seen you in a while. Thank you. Yeah, I've been just feeling absolute. I got some chest virus. I've tested for COVID twice. Don't have it. Just some kind of chest virus. I don't know. I don't know. Just feeling horrible. But just to prove to you that you are federally protected, I linked it down below, because the more people do this, the better off you are. And I say that because not only have I had this happen to me when I was a hiring manager in radio, and we hired a guy at a certain time, so he came in later than people had been there longer than him, but because when we hired this newer guy, they were hiring for $1 more. It really pissed off the people who had put in time with the company. And I went to bat for them, so much so that I told my manager when he was like, we're not giving him $1 raise. And I was like, I don't want to, number one, upset this dude, but I don't want to lose this guy, you know? And because he was hired at a different time, he's been here longer, he should be making the same amount. But because he was hired at a different time, he's making less. Made no sense to me. I said, take $1 out of my salary. I was salaried. And they said, no, we don't do that. And I went back to him and told him all this, because I will fight for the people that, you know, the working people, even when I was salaried. But not only have I seen that happen, where it's just like a matter of what time you get hired and what your rate is, but I've also helped tell people about this, that as a worker, you're protected to discuss what you make, and you should be doing it with other people. That I've had people come back to me and said, you know what, we did what you were talking about. We all started sharing how much we were making, and we were finding out that they were hiring new people for more money. So all the people who had been there forever were making not less money, but they were making the same amount as new hires. So there was no reward for longevity. No, I'm not on antibiotics. I'm not on anything. I'm on ibuprofen when my head's killing me. YouTube purposes. Okay, thank you, Blue Joker. It was for YouTube purposes. Jesus. It's unfortunate that was your first comment, because I'll tell you what, I like the Joker. You seem nice, but I understand there's some people that, you know, just gotta troll. I don't know. Does trolling make money? Maybe it does. I appreciate that. I hope I feel better too, because, man, I'm going on like day 5 of like, this sucks. And working like this it's horrible early in the morning. I gotta get up early in the morning, and when you first wake up, you feel like, you're like, do I have a fever? I can't tell. Am I just miserable from this sickness, or is it the wet? You know, it's just horrible. But back to what you should be doing at work, talking about how much you make. And it doesn't matter whether you work at a coffee shop, or you work at a Fortune 500 company, whether you work in the tech industry, whether you're coding. It does not matter. It does not matter. If you work for a living, you are protected by this law in the United States. You are allowed to discuss your wages. And the reason this is so important, because I don't think enough people know about this, and I don't think enough people practice it. In fact, I'm so comfortable with talking about my wages. When people didn't believe that Starbucks was only paying me $4 an hour after they take out my health care, they take 80%. United Health, the dude that got murked, his company takes 80% of my paycheck. And people weren't believing me. So, because I was like, I'm making $0 because they're taking insurance money for a period of time I didn't have insurance. And then when I paid that all up, and everyone's like, I don't know, it's just what the system is. And I was like, this is stupid. I'm working weeks for $0. And now, because they take 80% of my thing, it roughly translates, after that $16, it works out to about $4 an hour that I'm making. And people didn't believe me, so I just pulled up my paycheck in the back and left it on the screen. I was like, everybody come back. Come look at my paycheck. Don't be embarrassed by it. You know, this is the stuff, because people do not believe it. I've had arguments with people who will be like, just get another job. I'm like, you understand how they price fix labor, right? How all these corporations, they all pay right around $16 an hour. So it doesn't matter where you get a job. They're all paying the same fucking amount. And when you say Oh, if you don't like it, just negotiate better. This is why unions are important. Have you ever tried to negotiate going into a job? I've done it, and I've witnessed people do it. And the only time it works is a small fraction of a time when somebody else that's going for the same job is asking for the same amount. In fact, if you can fix it like that, you can have somebody going for the same job and you guys can coordinate to both ask for the same amount. One of you will get it. Another trick from the trade, because corporations do this all the time. Why do you think they're all paying right around the same amount? It's just then you have to weigh benefits and all that. But this is federally protected. And the reason why it's so important is because the more people discuss this and the more you expose the system, especially people who maybe haven't had to job hunt for a while, or they're locked into a thing, or they've been with the company. The most shocking one is for people who have been with the company for a long time and these new hires get paid almost as much as they do. And they're like, well, I've spent 8 years here. How are these new people making almost as much as me? Like, these companies don't reward longevity. They'll tell you that, you know, your raises are based on merit, but it's not. You're not the CEO. So it's very Wolverine RC been telling folks about wages for a while. Yeah, corporations have been scared. Yes, Disney steals tons of shit. Oh, so we'll get into the Disney thing in a minute, but good on you, Wolverine. Well, I linked down below all about how it's federally protected. They cannot retaliate. They can't tell you not to discuss it. And if your boss does say, you're telling me to break the law right now, you're asking me to do illegal stuff. If I want to do this, I am federally protected. You're trying to make me a criminal right now, and you're committing a crime by telling me. Tell them that, you know, because the most important thing about knowing your rights is if you know your rights, you know where to stand your ground. People that don't know their rights, if you don't know that, oh, by law in America, you can discuss wages, and the boss comes out and says, hey, you guys can't be talking about wages, and you don't know, then you're going to get quiet. You can be like, oh my God, am I going to get in trouble? But if you go, hey, this is federally protected, and you show them the link that I sent you, then guess what? They're going to go, oh, or they might, I've witnessed corporations break the law and clearly do it. And I told them, you're doing something illegal and you're asking me to break the law and I'm not going to do it. And they don't care. But at least know your rights. That's the important part. Oh my God, getting out of breath. Timothy Namata, good to have you back. Employment is just a revolving door, and that's the most unfortunate part about it. You know, I would say decades ago, there was some kind of, you could work your way up. You could still work your way up, but there was some kind of reward for longevity. You know, they looked to hire within. Now they still look to hire within, but they do it in this facade of, oh, well, we're going to give you this position, but we can't give you the raise yet. You know how many times I heard this in radio? We're going to put you on air, but we're going to give you this specific job, but, you know, you haven't proven yourself, so we got to keep you at the other pay rate. That's a fucking trick. That's a fucking trick. And most people have to do it because you're kind of locked in, and this is where unions come into play. That's a story for a different time. Most corporations use extortion and discrimination as leverage against their employee. 100%. 100%. So I just really wanted to, you know, start off today with telling you, talk about your wages, especially if you're new coming in. Be like, hey man, they just hired me at this rate, you know, whatever it is, 17, 25, and ask the older people, because this is the other important thing. I would always do this with jobs. I would look at who had been there the longest or who had just left if I was filling the role and be like, why did they leave? Were they ground to a stump? Did the company not treat them properly? Did, you know what I mean? Because those are telltale signs of how a company is going to play the game or treat you. Is if you go to the people who've been there the longest and they're like, I'm capped out. You know, I get no more raises. This is the cap of where I'm at. That's the future. So you can, you know, use that too. Use that as a tool. If you're going somewhere and you're applying, everything's apply online, go maybe into it and say, hey, how long have you been here? And try to talk to some of the people. You know, this is what they don't want. They don't want community building. They don't want you talking to people. But if you go in and you go, hey, you've been here for a while. How do you like it? And they say, you know, and be like, no, seriously, because I'm thinking about getting a job here. And see if they'll give you the scoop, you know? Because if people have been there a while, like they treat me with respect, they love that I've been here, I get raises, you know, whatever, you might find that out. So little trick of the trade, or just some information, some wisdom that I've gained over the years. Now let's talk about Moana. Moana 2 came out, right? And it allowed this guy to sue for 2.5% of the revenue, or $10 billion. He says Moana was his idea. And the most heartbreaking thing was, I guess he couldn't sue after Moana 1. They said because he ran out of time. Like there was a duration of time where he could have made the lawsuit. I'm sure that guy was probably kicking himself until Moana 2 was announced. And now this dude has a lawsuit, $10 billion or 2.5% of the revenue. But the story, linked down below, is incredible because he's not just some nutcase who's like, hey, I came up with the demigod Maui. You know, it's not one of those things. This sounds, from the reporting that I read in this one article, again, I didn't get to cross-check this a million times, and I'm sure because this is the first time I've seen it, more will come out about it. And you'll probably hear the mainstream news talk about this Moana 2. Is Moana a stolen idea? Is it content theft by Disney? This will probably be in the mainstream news by Friday, but I'm talking about it now. This guy talks about having meetings with the people at DreamWorks, having meetings with people at Disney for an idea. His guy was named Bucky, who is a Polynesian islander teenager who his story starts off with like saving a little turtle, just like Moana, and then meeting a demigod and spirits and mystical things and everything that's in the Moana movie, which is an amazing movie, by the way. I just don't like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Don't like him. But it basically lines up. And then when you find out that this dude not only met with DreamWorks, but met with Disney, and they were like, nah, we're not going to take that idea. With thanks for the Bucky idea about the Polynesian team who saves his island, you know, through mystical, natural, demigod, natural, mystical ways. They're like, thanks for the idea, but no. And then Moana comes out. It seems like this guy might have a case. And the reason I believe that is because even if you look at people like Mr. Beast, okay, and there's tons of videos, and you could even just look at Disney, right? Let's look at Disney. How do they kind of pave the way? Outside of Mickey Mouse, they just remade classical fairy tales, you know? They just made them awesomer than anybody else could, you know? Robin Hood, Sword in the Stone, Cinderella, Snow White, I think was the first one, Bambi, Winnie the Pooh, you know what I mean? Like, they just took already existing ideas and they're like, hey, let us do the cartoon in the Disney style. So, I mean, you know, they have original content, but look at look at what they started with. But the reason I believe this is because it happens a lot. It's happened to me before. And the thing is that, you know, Mr. Beast is, I'm sure there's a million videos on YouTube about it, but Mr. Beast does this all the time. Look at Squid Game. Mr. Beast's biggest video is not his idea. This is not like a Mr. Beast original. In fact, most of his videos are just like copying other YouTubers, and there's videos about this. It's like he saw a small YouTuber do a great idea and just did it on a Mr. Beast level. You know, he had originality when he started, but then after that, I don't know why you couldn't hire creative people, but most of his stuff is just recycled bits that other people have done, and probably better, even though he has a better arsenal of money and access. So, bro, what's up? What's up, Blah? Good to see you. Good to see you. So this Disney story, we will stay up with it because I want to follow it. But this guy's claiming Moana was his idea. It was originally called Bucky. Same storyline, everything. He met with DreamWorks. He met with Disney. They both said, nah, no thanks. And then Moana comes out. We'll see if this guy has a case. He tried suing when Moana 1 came out, but I guess the time limit ran up before he could get the lawsuit in. So now Moana 2, it opened the door for him again. And if this is true, I'd like to see him get his due, because you see this with big YouTubers. You saw this with, well, there were a couple of plagiarism YouTubers that H-Bomber guy did a whole expose on, and another cat did an expose on, where these big YouTubers see little YouTubers doing it and just take their idea. And even with me, it's happened with me. I've done some things for free for people. They're like, hey, I want to start this project. Can you do an outline? Can you lay all this out? Can you do a test thing with me? And even today, it's funny, before I read this story, I was checking to see what this one dude, I'd never heard back from what he was doing. And then I see one of the things I said, a joke I wrote for him, the joke I gave him on a t-shirt that he's now selling. And I went, oh man, I ain't gonna do nothing about it, you know, because number one, I don't think the joke was that good, but it was just one of those things where you're like, fuck these people, man, you know? And it happens all the time. And if you're a small artist, it might even happen to you. So, you know, it's just, they should get their due, right? So let's keep an eye on this story. And the other stories, really, I didn't want to go too much into, but I will say this: if you haven't heard about the gaming thing with Elon Musk, that he's paying gamers to play his video game that he claims he's the 7th best in the world, and then this weekend he was like giving a talk in Germany on his platform, and his guy died. So he literally couldn't be giving the talk and, you know, have his video game guy die at the same time. So people have found him out as a fraud, and it's funny because a lot of people, that was like the line for them. They were like, he's a fraud in video games too. It's like, no, he's always been a fraud. You're not just a fraud in one thing. Usually it's like, you know, you're a pathological fraud. You're not just like, oh, it's just video games, guys, that's it. And there's an interesting Substack down below where they outline it all, like all the things. They go into detail of how he's just kind of bought his way into everything and claimed it was his own. They've already proven that he's paying people. Yeah, Timothy. And that's a whole other saga that we could go into when I feel better, because it's fascinating. Hassan talked about it. Penguin Zio, all these cats on YouTube are talking about it. But it's more fascinating that some of these people, it's like that was the straw that broke the camel's back for them with Elon. And I'm like, yo, if that's making you realize he's a fraud, understand that applies to everything else in Elon's life. You know, he ain't a smart dude. He's just got money and bullied his way into things and then claimed it was his idea. And you could tell he's not a smart dude just by hearing him speak. I mean, him buying Twitter was like all the exposing we needed. You know, when he tweets stuff, you're like, damn, this dude is lonely, hurting inside, needed his dad to hug him and not be a complete a-hole racist. All right, guys. That's about all I could do right now. I don't want my voice going out. So hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I will see you tomorrow. Please hit the notification bell and please subscribe. I want to make this what I do, and I love bringing this stuff to you. And with more subscribers, hopefully this can turn into something. So if you have it in your heart to take a moment, click that little subscribe button, and right after, hit the notification bell. Why? Because I just tell you I could go live every day, and if you're getting notifications, you'll get notified when I go live. You could jump in here like Wolverine RC, Timothy Mnemonic, Blah, Blue Joker, Dr. Lovegreen, and everybody else who stopped by that I didn't mention. So thank you so much.